Hello everyone, it's Craig from Old Guy Paintball. Today's kind of a special episode. If you didn't see the short I posted yesterday, I took part in a 3-man tournament at my field. And this is the first time I've been back in the tournament scene in quite a few years. It's well before COVID. And if you watch some of my previous videos, some of the reasons I've talked about is, the cost, and some of these tournaments are getting competitive, but also you're getting a lot of people with attitude and everything else. So I kind of got, kind of lost interest in it a little bit. And it's tough. It's tough to stay on top of your game for that. So it was literally like starting over. And I'll throw it back here real quick, how it started. Our team field owner wanted to do a paintball tournament, and he was asking people if they would be willing to participate. And he had been posting it up and trying to get teams to play. And a couple guys at the field who were relatively new had said, hey, we had a third guy, but he dropped out. Would you like to join me on the team? And I said, sure, why not? I thought about it, like, well, try it. And then, as the day got closer, honestly, I was like, I don't know. Should I really get back in this tournament scene? It's so tough, and it's hard on you, and a lot of things. And but I made the commitment, and I was going to honor it, and I was going to play, and I was going to at least try to make an effort. And so we went out, we played, and it actually was a lot of fun. The guys I had on the team were basically rookies. They have basically no real tournament experience. They're just kind of getting into paintball. They have some decent equipment, so it was kind of good. And I got a chance to utilize some of the things that, as a more veteran player, that kind of probably helped us. We ended up going 2 and 3. We ended up coming in 6th overall, surprisingly. We started out winning the first couple games, and that was the kind of thing that helped, because right off the bat, you was like, well, these guys can play. I can still play. Hey, that's a good thing there, and it's like, granted they weren't the best teams, and as we went on to some of the better teams, we were beaten, but it wasn't like we got totally annihilated. It wasn't like we got off the break and 2 guys got shot out and boom, man, it was just bad. We actually held our own, and we actually made some of these better teams actually earn their victories. We at least were competitive, as far as I'm concerned, for the kind of team that we were. And the team that won it is they're a decent team. I mean, they have a field sponsorship down in another part of the state, and they probably play some of the bigger tournaments. So they were a good test for us, and they were really good to us. And they were nice guys, and they knew what they're up against. Some of these really inexperienced teams, and there were some good teams that they challenged them. So it was a good tournament overall. And overall, I was really happy with our performance. I mean, one of the biggest things I did as a more experienced player was, I told these guys right off the bat, when they start talking about, hey, do you want to get together, have a game plan? Well, I told them it's kind of hard to have a game plan because we didn't know what kind of field we were going to have. We didn't know what the field layout was going to be. We didn't even know who the teams were. So it's kind of hard to get an idea of what you want to do when you don't have any answers or you don't know anything. So I said, we'll just kind of wing it and we'll see how it goes. And maybe they were a little leery, like, oh man, this guy's not serious. But when I got out there, first thing I told him is the best advice I can give him is, you can win it all, you can lose every game, doesn't matter, stay in an even keel. A point goes bad, let it go. It's over. You can't go back and replay it. You just got to move on to the next, the next point and the next team. You just have to learn to play that way in tournament paintball. And I think that really helped a lot. And I think, and one of the things is when I got out there and, you got that 30-second count and you're at the start gate and they got that 10-second, you're lining up, it's just like, boom. When the whistle blew, it came back to me. I played extremely well, I thought. I was rusty. I made some mistakes. I mean, on the game that we needed to really get into the finals brackets, for the tournament, I kind of did a head check and got clipped, and that kind of cost us. Which is, that's a little bit of an experience back in the tournament scene, and it's just like I said, they're a good team, and it just happened. But had I got that guy out, I think I could have gone down one and actually got us into the actual real tournament section of it, into the semifinals. But it didn't work out that way, and I was fine with it. But one thing I did get is a lot of guys out there didn't know who I was. I mean, I kind of was teaching these guys, you got to play that little bit of mental game and try to make them think that you don't know what you're doing. And, when I went out there, I had a basic jersey on, jeans, I didn't have anything fancy gear, other than my equipment. So, I kind of played a little bit of that game where, hey, maybe this guy isn't that good, or maybe this team isn't that good. And it maybe surprised some people. But when I got out there at the end of the day, everybody out there was like, hey, who's that guy on your team? And, he's a real good player. And one of the teams that actually won the game was, the tournament was, he was giving some advice to our newer players. And he's like, do this, do that, but let that guy go. He knows how to play. Let him do his thing. He can carry you far. He's a good player. Don't waste it, And I think they took that to heart, and they played pretty well. And I think it inspired me. And it's kind of inspired me. It's like, maybe I might want to get back into the tournament action again. I like the guys I played with, and, it was a fun time. And, it's a good gauge of how good you are. And, like I said, at the end of the day, a lot of people were impressed with how well I played. I think it was a shocker to a lot of people. I was probably one of the oldest guys out there playing, but I held tough with good players. And, we had some good gun battles, and, you win some, you lose some, but you know what? It's making a statement that I can play, and that's what's important. So, overall, like I said, I was thought about doing this video yesterday, but after the tournament, but man, I was kind of really strung out from it, and it was late, and I was tired. It was just, it was just kind of beaten down. So I said, I'll wait a day and do it today. But it gives me a chance also to think back at how it was. So, I really do say this, though. If you get a chance, play in a tournament somewhere. If anything, just one time, to have the experience and just to see. Because the biggest thing you're going to learn is when you play rec ball or for fun, your gap is this big. Yeah, you miss it, you go to the next, you got another game in 15 minutes. When you're playing tournament paintball, your gap is this big on mistakes. Because every point counts, and you got to do well. And your slightest mistakes, good players will exploit that on you. And it's a good way to gauge your skill level, and if you need to work on certain things, but also just, kind of tell you how good of a player you really are. And sometimes, you'll surprise yourself and realize you're not as bad as you think you are. And, it's a good feeling. It's a good feeling knowing that people thought you did well. So with that, I hope everybody takes this time and does this. And I look forward to seeing all of you on the paintball field soon.